Right. Welcome everybody. Good day. Thank you all very much, of course, for joining this webinar, which will be all about ServiceNow process optimization. And it's our goal today to present and show you how process optimization works, and how the technology can drive improvements within your ServiceNow workflows. Today's meeting will be recorded, so afterwards you will be provided with a link to the recording for you to share with your coworkers or to look back at yourself. Okay, let's actually kick it off with today's presenters. First of all, honored to introduce our main speaker to you today, which is Dan Grady. Dan is the process optimization product manager at ServiceNow, and I can safely say that no one else is better informed about the ins and outs of the solution and its history and development than Dan. So Dan, very happy to have you in the call, and for collaborating and presenting with us today. Then on the bike. Thank you. Then on the bike, at least in the picture, we have Jason Monso, Senior Solution Consultant at the Cloud People, who will be demoing a process optimization use case for you during the session. And last, definitely least this time, my name is Jeroen Lammers. I'm part of the proposition management team at the Cloud People. And in that role, I'm involved with basically any services we perform relating to process optimization and other areas of automation on the ServiceNow platform. So you're all having a look at today's agenda. The welcome is going on. We will have Dan in the presentation, and of course the demo by Jason, as just mentioned. After that, we will have time left for some Q&A. So please feel free to address any questions you have or that might come up during the session. To elaborate on that a little bit, on the bottom right side of your screen, you will find the questions button. So please use that button for submitting a question to us, and just ask away. We'll have a look per question if we're going to answer it straight away, or if we address it during the QA session. We will also enlighten you with two quick polls during this session. You already saw the first one, I guess, and the second one is coming in close to the end. Okay. So before handing over to Dan, and especially for those unaware, please allow me to quickly cover some key characteristics of the Cloud People. We operate on a global scale with, as you can see on the map, with offices in Europe and the United States. And we specialize in both the ServiceNow and Google Cloud platforms. Well, today, of course, it's all about ServiceNow, so let me zoom in a little bit on that, on our ServiceNow organization. We are an elite partner. We have a large team of about, let's say 200 plus now consultants in the field. And those consist of process and solution consultants, architects, project managers. And we have a large competence center just displayed on the map in Poland, where we also have our support and managed services center. Well, looking at the market, what we aim for most of all in the market is helping our customers to adopt ServiceNow functionality, to help them modernize and automate their environment. So actually making that next step. What we identify is that the pace of innovation on the ServiceNow platform is quite high, while the adoption of all these exciting functionalities often falls short, and that causes a value gap. And that's where we try to help. And our value accelerators, as displayed here in the red part, are designed to bridge these gaps within specific domains of ServiceNow, such as the popular service operations domain. Staffing from our projects is based on our smart resourcing concept, and that provides our customers with access to our pool of resources, and actually allows the customers to find consultants with the right skill set and experience for the job that they want to hire us for. And that could be a combination of both local consultants, because we have consultants in every country listed on the map. But we also have nearshore consultants available, mostly from out of Poland, at a competitive price level. So that's yeah, just in short, a little bit of introduction about the cloud people and what we do within the market. And now, without further ado, Dan, happy to give the word to you.
Sure. Thanks. So what we're here to talk about today is enabling fast data-driven improvements with process optimization. What we'll cover over the next couple of minutes is just the why and what of process optimization. It's good looking at the poll results, easy for me to say. The results are kind of skewed to many of you. This might be your first exposure to process mining. So I think the content that we have lined up here today is going to be a great introduction for you to help you understand the value that it provides, where it fits in kind of your portfolio of analytical solutions, and how it's going to help you improve your processes or optimize your process over time. So we'll look at the why and what. We'll talk a little bit about kind of what goes into optimizing a workflow on the ServiceNow platform. I'll pass it over to Jason, who's going to do the very first process optimization demo while riding a bicycle. And then we'll wrap up with just some resources to help you get started above and beyond this session here today. Now, of course, I have to put this slide up here. This is the slide that says, hey, anything that I say and do here today cannot be held against me in the court of law. It is also the slide that says, as part of this presentation, if we happen to make any forward-looking statements around things that are going to be coming with the solution, you should take those as forward-looking statements and make no decisions based on them whatsoever, because they're always subject to change. I'm assuming you've read the fine print here. All right. Now, I always like to start sessions like this with this quote. Do the best you can until you know better. Then when you know better, do better. And it's by the great Maya Angelou. And why I like this quote is, one, it aligns to the reason that we've all gathered here today, right? We've all shown up here today to learn a little bit more about the cloud people, the ServiceNow platform, and process optimization, and then take what we learn, go back to our organizations, and apply it. But it also aligns to the solution itself, right? Which is process optimization, or in-platform process mining, which is going to automate the process of X-raying the workflows on the ServiceNow platform and showing all process participants where and how they could potentially be doing better in optimizing those processes. Now, with everything we do in life, whether it be a webinar like this one, a business process, or maybe even a park, we've got a design path, a vision for how it should play out in our minds. And when we design things, specifically processes, we design for both completeness and efficiency to provide the best experience possible for as many people as possible. So if we look at this park example, if we were designing a park, we put in these walkways for people to walk, bike, rollerblade on. We'd maybe put in some benches for people to sit, read a book, or share a story with a friend. We put in some grassy areas for people to lay down a blanket and maybe have a picnic lunch, or like my wife and I used to do on Saturday afternoons when we lived in Manhattan. We'd go and we'd play a game of Scrabble where she would consistently beat me. So we designed to provide the best experience for as many people as possible. Now, unfortunately, what we design isn't always what plays out in reality. And while this new path may be more efficient for those people who are trying to get from point A to point B, it certainly doesn't have a positive impact on the experience my wife and I are going to have when we go to play that game of Scrabble. Same thing is true with our business processes, right? You design for completeness and efficiency to provide that great experience, but then you roll it out, and unfortunately, reality kicks in, and not all the work is flowing through that design path. And that's going to have a negative impact on both the experience people requesting the service or using the process are having. And it's also going to have a negative impact on those people that are supporting that process or service as well. Right? And unfortunately, within our business processes, seeing that reality is not always as easy as that park example that I threw up there initially. Right? There's a real continual improvement challenge for many organizations today. If you think about continual improvement, it's often very manual, time-consuming, and costly. It involves running a whole bunch of reports, and for some reason, people still love to print out those reports and highlight things on a piece of paper. Then it's going to involve maybe holding a whole bunch of in-person or virtual workshops where we have to take a whole bunch of sticky notes and put them up on a wall, and then take a picture of those sticky notes on the wall and post it somewhere internally, because, like, did work really happen unless we post a picture of sticky notes on a wall somewhere internally at an organization? It may involve bringing in some third-party consultants that are super helpful, but they're not free. And then after we get through all of this, we still have to get alignment internally on the best path forward. And based on the speed at which many organizations that I work with today are moving, this, by the time we get through all this, the optimal path forward may have already changed. Well, we're here to tell you there's a better way to do things, and that's where process optimization comes in. Process optimization is going to accelerate the process to getting us to the insights that we need to make those improvements. Now, you might be saying to yourself, well, Dan, hold on. We already have a whole bunch of dashboards that give us those insights. And you'd be right. And I hope that you're using performance analytics and in-platform reporting to get those insights. But if you think about those insights you get on those dashboards, traditionally, they're things like how many tickets did we work? Which type of tickets were they? How long did it take to close those tickets? And how did we perform against our targets? And probably most importantly, are we improving our cycle times? Are we getting faster or slower? And these are all super important questions that we need answers to. And like I said, you probably have a dashboard like this that helps you answer those questions. But I've been doing this for a long time. And one of the things that I've learned over my 20 plus years in the analytics space is this: information tends to be one of the most addictive and contagious things out there. You give people a little bit and they always want more. So the first thing that happens when you roll this dashboard out to, let's say, someone in leadership, is they start asking questions like, well, why are my C or ESAT scores missing their targets? Why are my closure or resolution times trending in that direction? Why? And the answers to those why questions haven't always been readily available. They're not always easy to come by. And that's where process mining comes in. Process mining allows us to start answering all of those follow-up why questions around the KPIs that we see on our dashboards. It starts helping us answer things like, where is the process stuck? Where in the process is there any unnecessary rework happening? Where do we have to go back to the user to get some additional information before we can move forward in the process? Or one of my favorites, it's so common that I've actually given it a name. Everybody wants what I call the finger pointing report. Who's holding on to the tickets the longest? I need to know who's holding on to the tickets the longest. Or if you happen to be more of a glass half full person, we call that the opportunity to improve report. Maybe we just want a better understanding of, are we conforming to the way that we've set up the process, or are there a whole bunch of different outliers, or maybe which vendors are slowing us down and which ones are speeding us up? There's a whole bunch of questions behind those KPIs that we need answers to if we want to improve, and process mining helps us answer them. We like to say that process optimization or in-platform process mining is going to help us get to the why behind all those KPIs. And we can give you this level of insight for a process, let's say, like incident management, that is pretty straightforward, or maybe on a larger scale, a more involved process like an HR onboarding, lifecycle event like HR onboarding, where you have a whole bunch of interconnected processes that you want to look at more holistically. You have that level of flexibility to do that as well. Now, the last thing that I want to do is this, before I pass it over to Jason, is that's a little bit about kind of what process mining or process optimization can provide from a insight perspective or opportunity to improve perspective. But there's a real advantage to taking an in-platform approach to process mining if you think about the overall continual improvement process. The fact that you have all 4 phases on a single platform really allows us to start scaling process mining in the organization and make continual improvement a reality and more part of a routine. So if you think about it, if you want to optimize a process, there's 4 real stages. The first is detect, right? We need to be aware that there's something not going according to plan. And there's a number of things on the ServiceNow platform that help us understand when things are going bump in the night. Maybe it's notification on some SLAs that are out there. Maybe it's some notifications based on targets or thresholds you've set on your performance analytics KPIs. These are things that help us understand that something's not going according to plan. Then once that happens, we need to move into that analyze phase to understand why it's not going according to plan and how or where we could improve that. And that's where process optimization comes in. It really dominates this stage of the process with things like visualized process maps, bottleneck analysis, root cause analysis, variation analysis, and a machine learning based solution called automation discovery that's going to show us where and how we could potentially improve our process. which we then move to the improvement phase, which is what the platform is all about, right? There's so many different ways to optimize a workflow on the ServiceNow platform. Maybe process optimization shows us a situation where we have a lot of going back to the user for information, where we can improve an intake experience, and we use the virtual agent to improve that intake experience. Maybe we identify a multi-hop issue or a scenario where things are ping-ponging between groups that are slowing us down, and we can use predictive intelligence to get that work to the right place the first time and improve the speed in which things get done. Maybe process optimization helps us identify a swivel chair situation where people are moving data from one place to another, and that's what's slowing us down. And we can use automation engine, an integration hub, or an RPA bot to eliminate that slowdown point in the process. Sometimes process optimization shines a light on just a human thing that we could either coach up or stop doing. For example, I had one customer where we identified that they had 2 levels of approval on a printer toner request. And that second level of approval was adding 3 days to the response time. Do we really need 2 levels of approval on a printer toner request? I don't think so. And we just removed that and sped up the process. And then the last piece of this is that monitor phase, right? You're going to be finding all these improvement opportunities. We want to make sure that they don't get lost in the shuffle. So we've got things on the platform like continual improvement management and automation center that allow us to capture the improvement opportunity, prioritize it, track it, and then ultimately communicate back via, let's say, performance analytics, the impact those improvements are making. It's a huge piece, right? You don't want to just make these changes. You want to make these changes, get better, and promote the success that you had so you can move on to the next one and continue that momentum from continual improvement perspective inside of the organization. The fact that all 4 of these phases are on one single platform is a huge advantage. Like I said earlier, if you're trying to make continual improvement something that's continual, part of your routine, and not just a one-off science project that you do every now and then. With that, I'm going to pass it over to Jason to kind of show you what process optimization looks like in action. Jason?
Thank you, Dan. Let me switch over to my screen here. Okay, so first of all, can everyone hear me, and can you see my ServiceNow instance on your screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I will take that as a yes for everyone. So to Dan's point about using performance analytics and in-platform reporting, that's kind of the scenario that we're going with here. So I have a pretty basic PA dashboard up on the screen now. And in this scenario, we're looking at a dashboard here, and I can see an upward trend in my average time to resolve incidents. So this is obviously a concern. I don't want to see this trending upward. I want to see it flat or trending down. So this is something that I now would like to drill into a little bit more and see what's going on with my incidents. Why is the average time to resolve gradually increasing? So if I click on the widget here, it's going to take me into my process optimization workspace. And I've set up a specific project or process model within process optimization that's focusing specifically on the assignment group field in my incidents and how incidents are being assigned and reassigned throughout their life cycle. So that's the focus of this project. It's entirely possible to include other attributes of the incident in your analysis. Typically, you see analyses that combine things like assignment group and the state, so you can see the changes of both. But for the purposes of clarity, I'm focusing just on the assignment group aspect of the incidents here. So in my workspace, I immediately get some metadata about my my analysis and my process model here. So obviously, I'm looking at the incident table. I can see that I'm including about 6,000 records in my analysis with 663 routes. So the routes are the different paths that the incidents take through the process. And again, we're just talking about assignment group, not state or category or business service or anything like that. And then I get some statistics about, average duration, standard deviation, median duration, and total records in the model. So I can repeat my my KPIs here at the top of my workspace, and that's what we see here. So we've got our two KPIs about average time to resolve and percent of incidents resolved on first assignment. And then as I scroll down, I can get into some of the high-level analysis results from process optimization. So the first thing it's going to show me here are improvement opportunities. Now, these are based on definitions that are created elsewhere in the process optimization platform. So basically, on your different business processes, these improvement opportunities are defined, and they're defined using different aspects of your incidents or your problems or your HR cases, whatever it may be that you're analyzing. And in this case, since I'm focusing just on assignment group, the only one that's applicable here is this multi-hop issue, incidents going through 2 or more reassignments. So it's identified this as a possible improvement opportunity for improvement based on the fact that I'm looking at assignment group in this process model. Below that, we have variation analysis. So again, I said earlier that we have about 663 different routes that our incidents are taking in this model. And so here it's highlighting the ones that it thinks may be most significant. And you can see here it's sorted by highlights. So basically it's looking for ones with a significant number of records, not 1, 2 records, and a significant average duration. So it's telling me that these 4 routes here might be of interest. And of course, I can go through additional pages of more of that data. I can change the way it's sorted. So I can say, show me the ones with the most records first. So here, this one, but obviously these are of less interest because there is no multi-hop. It's just going to IT Support Americas. So that's the next thing that it tells me on my main page here. And then the third section that we get is bottleneck analysis. And so here, it's not focusing so much on the overall route that the incident took, but rather specific transitions from one value to another, in this case, one group to another. So it's focusing on specific reassignments. So for instance, here it's saying there's 98 unique occurrences of reassignments from IT Support Service Desk Level 1 to IT Support Americas. And again, you get your metadata. And again, we can sort on different parameters here. So unique occurrences, total duration, so on and so forth. And with all of these, you'll see a View in Workbench button. And that basically means I can take the data that's behind this particular bottleneck or this particular route variation and view it in more detail in the Analyst Workbench. For our purposes right now, I'm going to come back to the improvement opportunities here, the multi-hop issue, and I'm going to open up the data behind this in our Analyst Workbench. So in order to do that, under Process Analysis, I'm going to click on View, and it's going to take me over to the Analyst Workbench. And so obviously this is of most interest right here. This is our route map, I guess you could call it, in the middle. And what it's showing us is at a very high level right now, how many incidents followed these different routes from process start to process end. So here you can see, based on the thickness of the line, this is where the majority of our incidents went. They went from process start to IT Support Americas to process end. And so now what you're seeing is that, again, the line thickness is indicative of the volume, and the number is that volume. We can add a secondary metric. So you can see our primary metric is total occurrences. I can add a secondary metric to that. for instance, average duration. So now I can see not only did 326 incidents follow this path, but on average, it took them 23 hours to do so. Now, you might be saying, well, 23 hours to get from process start to the first assignment group seems a bit long. But as I said earlier, we're not seeing all the detail yet. In fact, if we were to show all the detail, it becomes unwieldy at this level. So we can show more or less detail by increasing or decreasing the number of, or the percentage of connections that we show. So it's defaulted to 20% here. I'm going to increase it to 35. And now we're going to see a little bit more detail. So now we can see that, you know, we've got a number of different paths here. And just at a glance, just by looking at what we have, you know, if you spend a little bit of time just looking through these numbers that are displayed here, there's a few things that might jump out at you. The first thing that jumps out at me is this situation over here. So I'll make it a little bit bigger. I'll zoom it in. And what we see over here is basically it looks like incidents are bouncing back and forth between these two groups, IT support service desk level 1 and IT support EMEA. And we can drag these things around to make things a little easier to read. So I can drag this up and drag this down. So I can see that I've got about 33 incidents that are going from IT support service desk level 1 to IT support EMEA, and then 33 that are going back in the other direction. So that might be something that I want to focus in on a little more. Another thing in this particular model that jumps out at me is this transition right here. And the reason it jumps out at me is 53 is not a terribly large number, but 1 month on average. 1 month to go from support IT to IT support Americas. So this is another one that I might want to zoom in on. And as you can see, as I click on these transitions, I get more information about it. So it you know, gives me the name of the transition, the total occurrences, the unique occurrences, and then I get some of that more metadata there. Now, these two are currently disabled here, the run root cause analysis and run cluster analysis, because the volume of records is not high enough. So once we're over a certain threshold when it comes to the volume of records, then we have these two things available. But in this case, they are not available. What I can do, however, is I could filter this further to say I just want to look at this particular transition from support IT to IT support Americas. And I can also see the records behind it. So what I'll do is, since it's only 53 records, we can go ahead and show the records. So if I click on that, it's going to take a moment to run in the background. Shouldn't take too long. There it is. It's done. So when you see something like that, when you try to apply an additional filter and it has to run in the background, the task gets put over here, and then they're sorted in descending order by date. So this is the one that I just ran, records on connection, support IT support Americas. I view result. And now I can actually see those records. So here's the 50 records that are included, and I could just do some spot checks visually, because it's such a low volume of records. So for instance, I can see here that employee portal seems to be the overwhelming category amongst these incidents. So there might be something that I look at there. Why are these employee portal tickets not going straight to the group that can ultimately resolve them? And there's an opportunity for improvement there. Another thing that I can do is there are some filters and variation analysis you'll see on the left side of the screen as well. So filters, and they use the word breakdown, which makes sense because it's very similar to a PA breakdown. So if you're not familiar with breakdowns in performance analytics, it's a way to slice and dice your scores. So if you have a score such as the average time to resolve incidents, you can see that score overall, but then maybe you want to break it down by incident priority or incident category or something like that, and see how those smaller segments of data score for that particular KPI. Well, the same thing is true here. So while here we're looking at all of the data that's captured by that multi-hop insight, and I can tell by clicking over here and seeing that the one filter that's currently applied is my multi-hop issue filter. I can also break the data down further based on a couple different fields or dimensions that are defined in my process model. So the two that are defined in this process model are channel. So basically the contact type, how did the incident come in? So I can see that 492 of the records were self-service with an average duration of 1 week, and they took 279 different routes. So I can see that information here. Of course, I could select one and apply it, and it would filter it. I can also break down, in this case, by reassignment count. So if I wanted to focus on those with higher numbers of reassignments, I could do that. Of course, you can see that the record count decreases as the reassignment count increases, which is what we would hope to see. And if we're trying to affect real change, we probably don't want to focus on the 3 that had 11 reassignments. We probably want to, look at a larger data set. But those options are available here. And again, you could filter this data further by selecting and then applying any of these. Additionally, to those breakdowns, we also have variation analysis. And this is where it's basically taking the data and finding those different variations, those different routes that the incidents took to get from start to end, and breaking them down that way. So here we can see, like for instance, the first one has 23 records. It took an average of 1 month and had 2 steps. And as you select these, you'll notice that it's actually highlighting the route in our model there. So we can see, as we just mouse over these, which route is being referred to by the variation. We can filter these as well. So if I said, I only want to see those that have, a certain record count or a certain number of steps, I could do that as well. And then also change the sorting there. The other thing we have available on this screen is our model statistics, which is a bit of a repeat of what's up here. However, this is the overall process model, the overall stats for the process model, whereas down here we can see not only the overall stats, which are what is on the left, but on the right we can see the stats that are specific to the current filters that we have applied. And remember that we are currently looking at just the data for the multi-hop issue. So if I look at model stats, I can see that overall I have about 6,000 records, but in this particular model, I'm looking at 1.5K. The average duration overall is 2 days. For this data, it's 6 days, so on and so forth. So I can see all of that there. Bottleneck analysis, this is really a repeat of what was on the summary and insights page when we saw the section on bottleneck analysis. However, I believe this is specific to the filter that we have applied here rather than overall. And then the activity legend is just, in this case, because we're only looking at assignment group, it doesn't really apply because we don't have different activities in our model here. We just have the one. But let's say we had assignment group and state. Well, this would tell us that, when you see a green triangle, that means it's assignment group. When you see a blue square, that means you're looking at a state change. So that's kind of how the analyst workbench works. All the different pieces that we have that we can use to interact with the data here. Let's jump back again to our summary and insights. and let's see if we can find something, where we can affect some change here and maybe make an improvement that's going to improve our average time to resolve incidents. So we were just looking at process analysis. There's also root cause analysis. So I'm going to open this up, and what this is going to do is use some AI to try to determine where, to try to determine sets of records or specific attributes that might be contributing to the issue here, the multi-hop issue. And so, like, for instance, now learning administration, it's telling me that 5 of 6 records, and that's a very low number, classified as now learning administration are possibly causing the inefficiency, 83 times more likely than any other assignment group. So that one, yeah, that's possibly an issue, but that's a low number there. So I'm not going to focus in on that one. I'm going to scroll down until I find this one, assignment group, IT collaboration. So here it's telling me that with IT collaboration, 134 of the 319 records that were initially classified as IT collaboration are possibly causing the inefficiency. So I'm going to drill into these. So I'm going to check that, and I'm going to hit apply in Workbench. So again, we're going to go back to our analyst workbench, but this time we are looking at a different set of data. So now we're just focused on those IT collaboration tickets. So here, looking at this, I see that we had 50 tickets that went from IT Support Americas to IT collaboration before they were resolved. And let's bring back our secondary metric here of average duration. So an average of 3 days. So 50 records took an average of 3 days to go between IT Support Americas and IT collaboration. So let's go ahead and look at those records. So again, I can click on this. There we go. And I can hit view records, and then it's going to show me those records. So 50 records that were, again, originally assigned to IT Support Americas, but then reassigned to IT collaboration before being resolved, adding an additional 3 days to the life cycle of the incidents. And when I come back here and look at these 50 tickets, and again, with a number this low, you will be doing the analysis manually versus using something like cluster analysis, which if we had a larger set of data where, manually looking at them would just be, too much work, then we can use cluster analysis to try and find out, okay, where are the patterns in those incidents, what makes them alike versus different, and see if it identifies any significant clusters. But in this case, I don't need cluster analysis. I can see just by looking at the data that there's one word that seems to pop up more than any of the others, and that's Zoom. And additionally, if I look at category, it would be conferencing solutions. So the majority of these incidents concern some issue with Zoom and or a conferencing solution, and they're being assigned, again, to IT Support Americas and then reassigned to IT collaboration, adding 3 days to the life cycle before being resolved. So this would be an opportunity to, whether it's a change to a manual process or using something like predictive intelligence to handle the assignment of your incidents. Here we can see that it seems like IT collaboration is the group that ultimately resolves these Zoom incidents. So rather than assigning them initially to IT Support Americas, the process likely should be modified to assign them directly to IT collaboration, thereby eliminating this 3-day gap or 3-day waiting period while it gets reassigned as it is today. So that's just one example of how you could use process optimization to identify a bottleneck or an inefficiency in your process, and then be able to relatively quickly react to it and see a quick improvement in your KPIs. That concludes my demonstration. So I suppose we should open it up to questions at this point, or? Dan?
Yeah, please. Let's
Yeah.
open it up to questions. Based on what you just saw there, and what you've heard so far, does anybody have any questions? Please put them in the chat. I don't know if you can come off mute if you want to put them in the question and answer session. Any questions? Obviously, after what you saw there, I think you probably recognize the power that the solution offers, but that there's no shortage of opportunities based on the customers that I've worked with so far. The first time you visualize their data, which really you can do in a matter of minutes, if for a process that's running on the ServiceNow platform, you can get to that level of insight in almost minutes once you turn on the plugin and get going. It then becomes, hey, how do I prioritize my findings and the improvements? And which ones do we tackle first? Which ones are going to have the biggest impact? But you're going to find that there's no shortage of opportunity within your workflows to make some changes to get better. Any questions? I don't know if you can come off mute. I'm not seeing any in the chat.
Yeah, if there is a question section, but if you're unable to access that, just put your questions in the chat because I'm looking at both.
While you're thinking up your questions, I will point out that what you just saw was on the incident table, but process optimization is available across all of the ITSM-based workflows. So think incident, problem, change, request. If you happen to be using one of your customer and industry workflows like CSM or healthcare and life sciences, process optimization is available for those workflows. If you're one of our customers using HR service delivery or lifecycle event, you also have access to process optimization. If you're building custom applications on the platform, you want to understand where there might be bottlenecks or improvement opportunities within that custom application, you can apply process optimization to any of the applications you built with App Engine. And then as of the Utah release, we've added or extended our coverage to include field service management as well. Our goal is to be able to provide process optimization on any and all workflows that are running on the ServiceNow platform. And with each release of ServiceNow, we continue to expand that coverage. Your input based on the polls today and in conversations actually help guide our roadmap on where we should apply it next. So always welcome that. And it was nice to see in the poll that there's a nice smattering of different workflows across these that you would be interested in using this in-platform process mining solution for.
Excellent. Yeah, maybe, and then it might also be worthwhile to mention that we at TCP we have created, let's say, an automation assessment that also involves process optimization. And by using the actual free plugin for process optimization, you can get a sense, a quite qualified sense of what process optimization can do for you within a specific workflow. So that doesn't require the license to be able to perform that assessment, but it can be a first nice step to get acquainted with the solution and what it can do for you. And actually, as part of the follow-up, we will send you some information about that on how we can perform that assessment within your environment.
Perfect. It's always like I said, for most organizations, they have not had this level of visibility into where they can improve. It's always an exciting moment the first time somebody sees the reality behind their workflows and what's actually happening within their workflow. So those are good exercises for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Well, thank you very much, Jason. You have one more. Dan, go ahead.
We do have one more slide. So in terms of resources, so you got a little taste here today. What you're probably saying to yourself, well, what can I do next? Well, in addition to that what Jeroen just mentioned there are some resources available for you out there in the ecosystem. One is that there's a Now Learning course for process optimization called Process Optimization Essentials. It's about 90-minute self-paced training. We do run something called the Process Optimization Academy. So these are sessions that dive into different aspects of the solution. You can find the Academy on the Process Optimization Product Hub on the ServiceNow community. That there's about 11 or so recordings out there. We actually have a session tomorrow focused on what's new in Utah. It's a really good Now on Now white paper talking about how we're using process optimization here at ServiceNow. We've applied it to about 30 different workflows running on the ServiceNow platform here at ServiceNow. So some of the insights and how we approached it are found in there. I mentioned the community forum, great place for you to get some additional information, ask some questions about process optimization, in addition to reaching out and working with the cloud people. There's a really nice Live on Now session called Getting Started with ServiceNow's in-platform process mining. And of course, there were sessions last year at Knowledge that are recorded and posted, and there's about 7 sessions lined up for this year's Knowledge. I see a question came in about the licensing fee for process optimization. As Jeroen mentioned, there is a limited version available to you in a subprod environment to do some of these initial tests. But from a license perspective, it's really depending on your contract. In general, it's an uplift to your spend is probably the best way to kind of say it. It's not based on number of users. It's an uplift to the spend based on the bundle that you'd be looking at, or you can acquire process optimization as an attach to your professional licenses across those different workflows. Cool. Any other questions that are out there? If there's no more questions, Jeroen and Jason, I'll leave it up to you guys to wrap it up.
All right. Yes, thanks a lot, Dan, also for sharing those resources, and we will make sure to include those as well in the follow-up of this session towards all participants. So you will receive access to that or links to that knowledge areas that Dan just provided, along with a link of the recording and some information about that automation assessment that I just mentioned. So if no more questions are popping up, let me do one more check. Then I think we can wrap it up. So thank you very much, Dan and Jason, of course, for your contribution. And if you allow me, I would like to wrap up the session with a preview of 2 upcoming webinars. One final check for questions. No, I think we're fine. Thanks a lot, guys. So to wrap it up, let me quickly inform you a little bit about 2 sessions coming up. On March 8th, we have Professor Annabeth Augard sharing her knowledge and experience in helping out organizations to design effective digital strategies and explaining how that translates to their ServiceNow roadmap. So interesting session already on our website in the events section. So feel free to sign up there. Also coming up for customers interested in ITSM Pro capabilities, such as embedding the virtual agent, predictive intelligence, and performance analytics, as just mentioned also in the demo, of course. TCP's Floris Verschoor provides clarity in this session on how to assess and kickstart a Pro implementation. And he also speaks about our adoption-based approach and demonstrates how success depends on engaging end users in early stage. There will be a date set for this webinar soon that will be provided to you in the follow-up as well. So with these exciting upcoming webinars, I'd like to finish today's session. Thank you very much for your time and for attending the session, and we will be in touch pretty soon. Have a great day. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
you.